Yes, everybody, welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. Or, of course, if you are watching on our growing YouTube channel, that is Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me from Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ just saw the Tar Heels win 91-65 over Boston College on that very court right there behind you. Carolina improving to 2-0 in the ACC. Good win for the Tar Heels. I know it was a game in which it looked like a Boston College opponent that hadn't played a game in, the best part of 3 weeks because of some COVID issues and whatnot, especially in that first half where Carolina was just all over. And we'll hit on that here in a little bit. But I think the first place we need to start is something we talked about and have talked about in the past when it comes to playing in environments like this in Boston, especially, day after New Year's Day. From what it looked like on TV, didn't seem like there was a huge crowd there. And the crowd that was there seemed like more Carolina fans than anything. And generating your own energy is something we've really hit on. And I think Carolina did that today. I mean, like I said, I thought Carolina came out well. I didn't think they were particularly great in the first half at times, but they did enough and did enough on the defensive side of the ball at times too to stop Boston College, although I did think Boston College just missed some wide open shots at times, but credit to Carolina for still doing what they did. But I thought first place we need to start, like I said, is something we've talked about before, generating your own energy in an environment like that. And I think it's safe to say with the win and the way in which Carolina did it, they did that pretty successfully today.
Probably 70% Carolina fans in here. It turned out this place holds 8,600, and my guess is there were about 6,500 in here, maybe 2,000 empties.
Not horrible.
We actually did a preview podcast you and I recorded last week, and literally as soon as we stopped, we get the notice that Carolina's game against Virginia Tech was postponed, and so we didn't run the podcast. We didn't have time to redo it.
It literally happened right after we got off.
But one of the things we talked about that no one ever heard except you and me is that Carolina had to generate its own energy. I've been up here before, and it's not a great – it's unfortunate. It hadn't been a great atmosphere up here for the last decade or so. Yeah. It used to be a great atmosphere up here for years, but it hasn't been. And then we thought it was going to be New Year's Day, but New Year's Day or today, there's no students here. They didn't have that band. They had 5 cheerleaders that were actually seated in front of us, or maybe 6. That was it. No band. They were piping in the band fight song through the intercom, and it wasn't very good. It sounded like someone was using speakers from the 70s or something.
Oh man, that's tough.
And it was just a really bad atmosphere. And with that, Carolina had to generate its own energy. So I asked a few of the players about that because they looked a little sluggish early, but I don't think it was a lack of energy. I think they were ready to play. It's just sometimes you got to get the wheels churning before you get a good sweat going and get into a groove. And that's what happened. And the guy said that Hubert made a point of emphasis of telling them, look, you may be able to hear a pin drop out there. I'm paraphrasing here. They didn't actually say that, but you've got to go out there and play hard as if it's a packed arena. Don't worry about whatever the atmosphere is. You can't control things like that, but you can control how you play. And Hubert said that, yeah, the team did that. That was a point of emphasis, and it was a sign of growth. They're 3-0 on the road, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, it's Charleston, Georgia Tech, and BC. Last year's team didn't win its second ACC, and they're 2-0, by the way, in the ACC, both games on the road. Last year's team didn't win its second ACC road game until its 5th ACC road game, and that was at Pitt on January 26th. So there's by every measure, this team was a year ago, and I think today was an example. Not only were they ready to play, but they put their throat on Georgia Tech, on Boston College, and put them out of their misery before halftime. In fact, there were 3 of us here that covered North Carolina that were covering the game. We barely watched the second half.
Working, yeah.
I mean, I have a flight in a couple of hours, so it kind of worked out really well for me. I could get a lot of work done. I have to worry about being stressed making my flight, especially as crazy as travel stuff is these days. So they went on a 44-10 run, which we're going to talk about here in a second. And the reason they were able to do that was because their minds were right. They were ready to go. They hadn't played 12 days. They were in a terrible environment, but they were ready to go. They had a good skip when they came out of the gate. And then they dealt with Dawson Garcia going out not even 2 minutes into the game with – I didn't see it. It was right in front of me, but I didn't see it because the referee was in the way. Yeah. But I saw the replay of it, and Hubert later said that, Dawson was having really bad headaches. They had to take him back to the locker room, so we'll find out whenever, perhaps tomorrow on the ACC call. Hubert might have an update on Dawson, but they had to go the rest of the way without him, and they had to go the rest of the way without Justin McCoy, who was in COVID protocol. So it was just Manic and Armando, and the team didn't miss a beat. I know BC's not very good and didn't play well today, but the Tar Heels had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, most definitely. And they're a little bit shorthanded as well, like you said. You can even see it on TV. It looked like the bench was kind of short. I know it was just McCoy and Garcia who McCoy to make the trip, and obviously Garcia was at the end of it, but it still seemed like a pretty thin bench looking at Carolina for whatever reason. But yeah, it was a good win for the Tar Heels in the way in which they played. You hit on that 44-2 run. Before we dive into that, we're going to run through some stats. Caleb Love, 22 points, led the Tar Heels today. Armando Bacot, another double-double for him, 18 points, 11 rebounds. I believe it was his first 3 of the season that he hit today as well.
First 3 of his career.
Oh, career.
First 3 of his career. And I'll tell you what, going back to what we were just saying a second ago, and a little insight, people know what sometimes media has to do, especially on the road when you have to catch a flight. When you get handed a cakewalk like this, it makes it easy because those possessions in the second half weren't that crucial. I taped the game. I'll watch it later. Probably watch it tonight. However, when he hit that 3, none of the 3 of us were watching the game. We were all typing. And we heard the crowd started chanting Armando Bacot, and voila, I looked at the score line, and he hit a 3. So that was the first 3 of his career.
Yeah, he was trying not to smile, too, when he was running back. And I think they finally got a smile out of him when he walked to the bench. I think it was a timeout not too long after that. So it was pretty funny to watch when they zoomed in on his face. He was trying not to laugh when he hit that 3. He was pretty shot. I'll give him credit. But, AJ, like I said, Bacot 18-11, Brady Manic, RJ Davis pitching in 17 apiece for the Tar Heels as well. So you had 4 Carolina players in double figures. Boston College just shot 31.3% from the floor, really struggled in the first half as well. I believe it was below 20%. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was low in their shooting percentage in the first half in particular. But you talked about that 44-10 explosion that Carolina went on. That was big time. I know you said, like I said, I know it was a Boston College team that had been off for a while. You could kind of tell they looked sluggish, didn't look great today, missed a lot of wide open shots too. I know Carolina played well defensively at times, but make no mistakes about it. There were some open shots that Boston College just didn't hit. Then on another night, they might hit. But regardless, that 44-10 explosion from the Tar Heels just blew the game wide open. I mean, at halftime, even before that, I saw some people tweeting, and even I was thinking, this game's over. I just don't see any way Boston College comes back into this. And like I said, that 44-10 run for the Tar Heels is really what just blew the barn doors off and it ended the game at halftime, essentially.
Well, a lot of those missed shots were open 3s, and Boston College is not a good 3-point shooting team. I talked to a guy who covers BC before the game and after the game. And after the game, they're like, well, they let them shoot 3s, but BC's not going to hit 3s because they don't. So Carolina, their mission was to stay in front of the ball, as Hubert talked about on Friday, and keep them from scoring a bunch of points in the paint. And they succeeded at both things. So the way you get upset is by allowing a team to play out of character. Carolina did not allow BC to play out of character. So they get a lot of credit for that. And that was all in that run. When you score, one of the things about Roy's teams, people used to try to grade them per possession defensively sometimes, and it didn't always tell the truest story. I like teams that can score a lot because when you constantly layer baskets one after another, it has a psychological effect on the other team. And when Carolina was going through that run, you could see, and really I think it started when Brady hit those 2 threes. It was 21-11. He hits a 3, boom. 29 seconds later, hits another 3. It's 27-11. BC calls timeout, and the body language of the BC players changed. And they never got it back, really. So runs on the offensive end helped the defensive end. I think that their defense was helped by the fact that Carolina's got into BC's heads. I think the Eagles were playing hard. They just weren't playing supreme active. And really, they weren't very good. This was a bad Power 5 team Carolina played today. But Carolina made them look exceptionally bad. So the Tar Heels get some of that credit. And that 44-10 run was really impressive. Carolina missed their first 7 shots. So in that run, I believe they were 17 for 26 or something like that, which is pretty good. And they were 12 for 12 from the free throw line. And a lot of different guys were scoring. They were getting 3s. They were getting drives. They were getting putbacks. They were getting to the line. I mean, they were checking off pretty much every box that you need to check off on both ends of the floor. It wasn't a great rebounding half. BC had a lot of offensive rebounds, but they also missed a crap load of shots. At one point, Jacob, BC was 4 for 31 from the floor. That's gross.
Yeah, it's bad. That's bad.
And that's BC, but you got to credit the team that they're playing with as well. So a lot of check boxes today, from the psychological stuff, from the physical stuff, from the skill stuff, from the efficiency stuff. There really wasn't much wrong today. And again, one of the worst teams in the ACC, but this is a club that played with Utah. This is a club that beat Notre Dame by 16 a couple of weeks ago. So it's not like BC is horrific every time it steps on the floor. It was today, but I'm telling you, I think Carolina had a lot to do with that.
Definitely.
And that run, that was the best basketball this team has played this year, and one of the best stretches this program has played in a few years.
Agreed. Yeah, it was a big-time performance up there.
And let me throw one more thing in. Steve came over and told us at halftime that the 29-point lead was 49-20 at the half. That's the largest halftime lead against anybody since January 8th, 2017, when they were up 23 on State.
Yeah, State.
I think, or 33 on State. It was 56-23. And that club went on to win the national title. I am not comparing anything there. That just happens to – that's an example of how impressive this half was. They were playing at an exceptionally high level.
Yeah, they were big time in particular during that stretch. Last thing, let's kind of look ahead a little bit, kind of talk about where the Tar Heels are at right now. Obviously sitting at 10-3. 2-0 in the ACC, both of which were road games. They're 3-0 in true road games on the season. You've got Notre Dame on Wednesday coming up, 9 p.m. tip-off. We've talked about the schedule before. I can't remember if we talked about this on the preview podcast and never saw the light of day, or in a previous podcast before that. It's a really comfortable and favorable schedule for the Tar Heels coming up at Notre Dame. Then obviously on the 8th, you've got UVA in Chapel Hill, followed by Georgia Tech a week after that, essentially. So you've got a nice stretch of games coming up for the Tar Heels, really starting with that Notre Dame game. But like you said, this is a Boston College team that beat Notre Dame by 16 points. Notre Dame's beat Kentucky. It's college basketball. It's a weird time. You'd expect Carolina to go up to Notre Dame and South Bend and take care of business against the Irish. But in league play and with everything going on, you just never know what's going to happen. But overall, I think where the Tar Heels are sitting right now in ACC play, I know barring that Kentucky and Tennessee games, which have really dampened and kind of hampered this team and how people are looking at them, especially even some of the Carolina fans, because they haven't really performed in signature games. But all that being considered, where the Tar Heels are sitting in ACC play right now with the schedule that they have coming up and with how they played on the road as a whole, I think the Tar Heels are probably feeling pretty good going into like I said, a really good stretch of games here in January in particular.
Those were ugly performances, but if you heard Hubert Davis on Friday morning, the 2 points of emphasis during this period in between games was staying in front of your man defensively, staying on the ball, in front of the ball, and also limiting production in the paint, because those are the two things that killed them in all three of those games.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave up 150 combined points in the paint in those games. So they happened. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to learn from it? You're going to wallow in misery, or what are you going to do? Well, they're using those games as tools to improve. And the ACC gives you an opportunity, because it's so down this year, to win some games against teams that maybe aren't that great. The league is not as strong as it usually is, but you can kind of generate some other momentum, generate a good rhythm going. So BC is what it is. Georgia Tech is what it is. Notre Dame is not very good, but Notre Dame is more than capable of beating this Carolina team and beating them convincingly. So the Tar Heels have to be ready when they go to South Bend Wednesday night, and it'll be an opportunity to start 3-0 in league play with all the games on the road. And that means with 17 scheduled games left, and that's because we're told that they're going to try to get the Virginia Tech game in, 10 of them are at home. So when you start out 3-0 in league play and it's all on the road, and you're in the ACC, that's a pretty good place, because this club has to build its resume for the NCAA tournament. It has to position itself in the best possible seed in the tournament, and winning road games will help you do that no matter what league you're in. The other thing is they just got to get better, and they got to win games. This club has to win basketball games, and my goodness, not only did they win today, but it looked like what they practiced, everything they focused on before they even got to Chestnut Hill, showed up in their performance today. So it needs to happen again Wednesday. That's how you get better. That's how you distance yourself from whatever you were in Connecticut, from whatever you were in Las Vegas. It's a long season. I've seen teams that got hammered early in the year in games, and they go on and have really good seasons. Let's not forget the 2012 team lost by like 40 at Florida State.
Yeah.
And that club was on a beeline to meeting Kentucky with the title game until Kendall Marshall got hurt. So it happens. And can't do anything about it, learn from it, improve. And I think we saw today some improvement from this team. So now the next challenge is to connect games. We talked about that when they played Michigan and Georgia Tech, and we talk about it now. They got to connect games, got to connect positive performances, and do so showing that the stuff that bothered them earlier, that was an issue earlier, is no longer an issue. So I think Wednesday is a great opportunity for this team to continue doing those things. I don't think we're going to see this club jump into top 10 type of team, not in terms of rankings, but in what we see anytime soon. And I have no idea if they're ever going to approach that, but they're good. They have a chance to get a lot better than what we've seen so far, even today, given the competition. But you got to have performances like this and then start stringing them together and show improvement, show connections from the staff to the kids, show all that kind of cohesion that you need to bring all this talent. And they do have a lot of talent together to form a unit that can be pretty imposing in late February and into March. And I think this club has that potential. We're going to have to see now if they do that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting month coming up in particular, like I said, with the game. So we'll see how the Tar Heels do. But starting off 2022 on the right foot, getting a big-time win over Boston College, 91.
And let me butt in real fast.
Go ahead.
I know that I have to work on my interrupting, but just so everybody watching knows, Jacob got engaged on New Year's Eve, and I think it's one of the most awesome things in a long time. Jacob's a good buddy of mine. He's a fantastic part of what we do here. And now Carly is going to be formally a part of our THI family pretty soon as well. So exactly. Everybody send Jacob a big congratulations and kudos, because he, as some people said on our boards, he outkicked his coverage.
Yeah, you big time outkicked my coverage on that, AJ. I appreciate the shout out.
I want to tell you, sort of face-to-face congratulations. My friend.
I appreciate that, AJ. It means a lot, man. I got a lot of really positive responses on Twitter as well, and big thank you to everybody that kind of reached out on social media, and even I had people I'd never talked to, never met in person that follow me on Twitter, 50, 60 people reaching out to me and saying congratulations. So, yeah, big appreciation to everybody. But thank you for that as well, AJ. It means a lot. And she's stuck with me now, AJ. Nothing she can do about it. So I got it.
Can't let her down now.
I locked her in, man. She's stuck with me for life no matter what now. So, good stuff. AJ, I'll let you run. I know you got to catch a flight here. What time is your flight? What time you fly out?
8 o'clock, 7:50 or something like that. So
yeah, you don't have much of a turnaround. You got about 3-4 hours, and you know how that goes to the airport.
Yeah, and driving in Boston is a pain. Logan's a pain. I got to drop off a rental car, which is like a half a mile away from the airport. So I got to roll here pretty soon.
Yes, sir, man. So anyway, AJ, we'll let you run because you got plenty of stuff to do. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Make sure you keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com and our YouTube channel as well for all the post-game coverage and all the coverage leading up to the Notre Dame game on Wednesday, too. Thank you guys for watching. As always, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell too, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.